Hi everyone, this is Real World Audio, and now I'm going to give you the parts list for the baby darling. So this is the version 1 of my 3 darling versions that I'm proposing to you that I have assembled. The schematics and the parts list for everyone, and this took long because I had to choose the parts for you, and you, my viewers, are all around the globe, and I had to adjust the sources because I had feedback during the past month that some of the sources I proposed was not available to you. So this took me many hours to assemble, and I hope everyone will have use of it. So I already introduced this for in the previous episode. I'm not going to repeat it. However, what I haven't told yet is that for this baby darling, you do not need an active preamplifier if you use a CD or an LP as a source, or something that can put out 2-volt input that can drive it to full volume. It has a built-in volume control. I'm going to put that in for you. And if you want, you can add extra RCA jacks and a selector switch. So basically then it will work as an integrated amplifier, and that's it. You don't need a preamp. Everything in one spot. So here goes the parts list. First one, tubes. The source of your vacuum tubes for this project and the tube sockets is eBay. Tube sockets and tubes are just so diverse to get from around the world that I cannot recommend any other source than just looking for eBay or hunting on your own if you have better sources than that. But it's pretty much the most universal and I would say cheapest source for this project, because we are not using any kind of fancy parts which people would demand a premium on eBay. And none of these parts that we are using here for tubes and tube sockets have counterfeit versions, because this is not something that is in high need, and all of this is very cheap, so there's no business in counterfeiting them. So for the input tube, which is the same as the driver tube, we will need 2 tubes, and it's the 6J4 tube. And as you see, I have written you up the entire list of 6J4 versions, starting with the weakest version to the premium version. If you look on eBay or anywhere else from your favorite tube source, just if you see any of these coming up, they will all work with this project. So the tube, which is all of these tubes, are the 6J4. That's the name of the tube. The A means that it's a cheaper version, like a lower tolerance version, a noisier version. So that's a junk version. I do not recommend doing that, but if that's the only thing you can find, just get it. 6J4 is the basic version. The 6J4W, the W means it's ruggedized version. So it means that it will have a longer tube life. It is much more durable, can handle much more abuse. So it means that if you want, you can run it hotter, so you can get more power out of it if you adjust the operating points. The 8532 is the military version of this tube. The A means that it's the noisy version. Those are almost like the reject tubes of which did not make the 8532 qualification. And the W is the ruggedized version, so it means that military version, which is for super heavy duty. And this is the one that will be most accessible to you, and I would say that get this version, the 8532 or 8532W, and this will have a fantastic sound, And the very best is the British military version, and you can get it, and you know, if it's the tube name is CV, it means British military. CV5311, that's the best version by far of this driver tube. The tube socket is called 7-pin socket. Get 2 of that. The power tube 1626, any brand, sounds the same, 2 of them, and basic octal tube socket. Output transformer, you can pick your level, what you want. For the budget version of the baby darling, you can pick the Hammond 25E SE. You will need 2 of them, one for left channel, one for right channel. And I'm recommending this for the budget version because worldwide this is the easiest to get. And you can use 4 ohms, 8 ohms, and 16 ohms loudspeakers with it, but I have to warn you that with 4 ohm loudspeakers it will sound very, I would say, anemic and very quiet as well. So please plan on getting some higher impedance and more sensitive speakers. If you currently have 4 ohm, then your plan should be to work on that. And if you insist on the 4 ohm loudspeaker, then this project is not for you. Okay, so for the serious builders, so for those of you who do not want to go into more complicated builds, but you want an ultimate sound quality, then you can get the Hammond 1638 SEA. And this is a serious output transformer. It weighs 5 kilograms. And it will also drive your 4 ohm, 8 ohm, 16 ohm loudspeakers. But I have to warn you, if you use this output transformer, it will almost double the cost of your amplifier project. And for those of you, for example, if you are a violinist, if you want ultimate violin sound for you, and then you should go with the Hashimoto. This is the smallest Hashimoto output transformer that will work here, and that will about triple the cost of this project. For the Hammonds you can get from Mauser, and Hashimoto you can get from Hashimoto. Order it from Japan, they ship worldwide. Now we go to power supply. So power supply parts, all of them you can get from Mauser. We have the Hammond 369EX, and this is the Mauser catalog number for it. It has 380 volts center tapped high voltage and 6 volts filament for which will drive the input tubes. We also need an extra filament transformer for the power tubes, which need a 12 volt transformer. That's going to be a Hammond, the 186C12. And let's see, that's it. So this is a little bit of caution for everyone. It's something that I cannot give you an exact value because it depends on your actual voltage that you have in your country, but probably 100 ohms, 15 watts power resistor is a good starting point for the 1626 filament. But you will find out what you need when you build your amp and you measure your filament voltages, and based on that we can calculate what is the resistor that you need to drop it to that voltage, which will guarantee a long life for your vacuum tubes. Maybe you won't need any resistor, but we will not find it out until you build this amplifier. That's why I'm not giving any catalog numbers there. UF4007 diodes. This is a solid state rectification. That's the catalog number of the diode. You need 2 of that plus 1 for the power supply diode tweak, which I already talked about in a previous episode. The power supply will be using CLC filtering, so we will use a choke in the power supply, and we will use 180 microfarad APCOS TDK cap, and that will be used for first C and the last C. So you will need 2 of these capacitors. It's about $4 each. That's the part number. And let's see, where did I put the choke? Here you go. There's the choke. The Hammond 159R, which is a 6 Henry choke. And using this configuration will give you 4 millivolts of hum at an approximately 250 volts DC high voltage supply. And I also recommend to use a 15 microfarad Kemet DC link capacitor to bypass the second capacitor of the power supply to increase the sound quality. You do not need that. Unfortunately, here I did not add the parts number for that, but I will do that later on. Maybe I will type it in for the video in the comment section. So all of these that I showed for power supply is from Mauser as well. Signal section, same thing, it's also from Mauser. You notice the trend now. You can get 90% of the stuff from Mauser, so you can put in a big Mauser order, and the rest of it is mostly eBay, and you are done. So from Mauser, you can get a stereo volume control. This is some really basic stuff, really cheap. You should use that if you are on a budget. If you can afford it, then I would recommend to go for maybe an Alps pot, 100K or 250K, both will work. But I'm not going to give any recommendations for where to source it, because it can widely differ based on where you live. Okay, you will need resistors, 200 ohm, 1 watt rated, coax pair, which is the same as Kivame. Kivame is coax pair. Coax pair is the company who makes it. Kivame is the guys who put their logo on coax pair resistors. So this is the manufacturer. Use their carbon film resistors. You will need 5 of these 200 ohm ones. We will use 4 for grid stoppers and 1 for the input tube's common cathode. We will need 1 Elna Silmic 2, 6 volt rated, 330 microfarad for the input stage to bypass the cathode. That's the Mauser catalog number. And for the power tube, for the common cathode, you will need 350 ohm coax pair resistors, 2 watt each. That's the catalog number for that. And if you are wondering about the price, these expensive resistors will cost you about less than $1.50. So don't fret about it. It's not as bad as it sounds. And you don't have to boo because I'm using so-called boutique parts. This is not boutique part. These are high quality parts. And if you are using lower grade parts, then you are compromising on quality. That's it. And then to go with these quality parts, they are really not expensive, and they will not blow your bank account or whatever. So to bypass the power tube, you will need a higher voltage rating, 63 volts rated, 100 microfarad size, and that's the catalog number. Grid resistor for the power tube, it's a 220K, which means kilo ohm, 1 watt rated coax pair. You will need 2 of that, plus we will need 2 more to add as bleeder for the power supply to keep it a little bit safer for beginner builders. And for coupling capacitor, I recommend something. This is, I think, probably one of the best thing that you can get from Mauser. It's a Kemet DC link capacitor, very high voltage rating, and that's the catalog number. You will need two of that. If you can afford it, or if you have access to it, because depending on some parts of the world, I have no clue what sources you have access to, but if you can get or higher quality film capacitor, then you can use that instead. By the way, this capacitor is metallized polypropylene film capacitor, which is like I would say the best quality, I would say the second best quality coupling capacitor that you can use. The best is the it's not the metallized, but when you have a foil capacitor, so when you have a layer metal and not just a metal particles deposited on a film, that is not as good as having a proper metal layer. So for the input tube, we also need a plate load resistor, which will be a 47 kilo ohm 2 watt rated coax pair. Here's the catalog number. We need two of that. So this takes care of our signal section. This is the amplifier itself. It uses that many parts plus the vacuum tubes. That's it. And then from eBay, online, whatever parts connection, you will need a pair of RCA jacks, or more pairs if you want to use it as a multi-input integrated amp. You need a selector switch in that case to choose between your inputs. You also need an IEC socket for the power cord where you can hook up your power cord. You need a fuse holder. You need speaker binding post and the power switch. I'm not giving any kind of specific instruction for that because it's going to vary a lot based on where you live, and I have no experience with other parts of the world besides US on how to source these parts. For the chassis, I would recommend to use an aluminum plate, 40 centimeter by 30 centimeter size, given in metric so everyone understands it. And I would say this is the absolute minimum. If you can make it bigger, please, please, please do it. It will make a positive difference, will make the build easier. And if you want to modify the amplifier in the future, it will give you much more power. And with this aluminum plate, I recommend to build a wooden frame, and you can put the plate on top, and the wooden frame shall be about 10 centimeters tall enough so you can fit your transformers under the plate. And of course, we will mount the power transformer on the top, the vacuum tubes will be on the top, and all the rest goes under the chassis. So I hope this gives a good starting point for everyone, and it satisfies your well-deserved curiosity. Thank you for tuning in, and please stay tuned for the schematics. And please like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.